is our amazing John, who's going to be our general manager, John Lewis, who is going to be giving us our CSTC update. Thank you so much, John. Take it away.
Oh, wow. I don't know how to follow that. I ain't no cat, but I'll sure give it a shot. Just kidding. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. The last two speakers are just so inspiring. I tell you, Chief Louis and the that was my first shot at rapping. I thought I wrote it last night there, so I thought I'd fall. Since I'm following them, I knew I'd never ever fill their or be ever even close to their shoes, to filling their shoes there. But anyway, yeah, thanks very much for being patient, everyone. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge being on the sovereign territory of the Treaty Tenay. And also like to thank the board of directors and the tribal chief and the membership for being on here as well and for being patient with us at this time. The elders, the MC Xander Ross, and just want to acknowledge the staff here for all their hard work putting this Zoom, our very first Zoom AGA together. Was definitely a learning experience, and our hope is that we don't have to do this next year. Hopefully we can all see each other, because it's a lot more effective, I think, when we can see each other. There's a lot more feel to it. We can see each other's and feel each other's hearts and that type of thing. It's just more a better feel when we're all in the same room with each other. And you know, this theme of resilience through unity since time immemorial, I think great job with the staff and helping put that together. And I think it really speaks a lot to what we're doing here today, being resilient here and fighting through this whole thing with COVID and things like that. You know, condolences to the communities again from us here at CSTC, the staff here, to the communities. We know you guys are going through a lot, and thank you for your time for coming to join this AGA here via Zoom. Greatly appreciate it. And we know what you're going through here, because a lot of us here also have family and friends that are going through this whole COVID thing too. So kudos to everyone out there. Heidi, on behalf of the Carrier-Sicani Tribal Council staff, I would like to welcome everyone to the 38th Annual General Assembly for the Carrier-Sicani Tribal Council. I would also like to acknowledge and thank your previous general managers on their work and dedication to the CSTC. Just as an introduction too, a lot of you don't know me because we haven't had this chance to meet in person through COVID and things like that. My Christian name is John Lewis, and my Githkatla Wolf tribe name is Wahie Medik, which means basically the large grizzly bears without fat. I got that name a long time ago, so things have changed since then. I am from the oldest continually inhabited community in North America, the Githkatla Nation. We are also known as the people of the salt water, located on what is also known as the northwest coast of British Columbia. I am from the Wolf tribe, from the house of Njits Hork. I was raised by my grandmother, Mary Lewis, in Githkatla, where I went to the Indian Day School up until 1974. When then we packed up and moved to Prince Rupert, where I continued my schooling and honed my entrepreneurship skills as a young lad, buying newspapers for 5 cents and selling them for 10 cents. After selling newspapers and for the rest of the day, I worked in the Prince Rupert Baker Boy shop for an additional $2 a day. Both jobs taught me some good skills as a young boy and a way to earn my own way. I also began my commercial fishing career very young, often helping my uncle on his gill netter in the summer months of 75 and 1976 on a small commercial vessel called the Lady Vaughan. In the following year and summer months, I was hired as a painter and painted the entire inside of the Friendship Center in Prince Rupert. The following summer, I worked as a laborer in the cannery, gutting and cleaning fish. It was then that I asked commercial seiners and their crewmen on how much they were making per trip on, in their fishing days. I was quite astonished by their production and their wages. I was then determined to become a commercial seiner, and in the spring of 1979, I received my recreational diving certificate from NAUI, which is also known as the National Association of Underwater Instructors. And I also got a basic first aid ticket, and being forearmed with these two designations, I was hired on in the summer months of 1979 as a deckhand on the commercial seine boat called the Price Isle. Having commercially seined in the summer months of 1979, 80, and 81, I completed my grade 12 and received my Dogwood diploma from the Prince Rupert Senior Secondary School. I then went on to Grand Prairie Regional College for an additional 2 years. However, the lure and calling of the ocean was too much, and I returned to the coast to follow my dream of becoming a commercial fisherman and one day owning a commercial vessel. That dream came to fruition in 1996 when I purchased a commercial fishing vessel. However, in the spring of 2000, I sold the vessel and moved on to administration as the writing was on the wall for the downturn in the commercial fishing industry. So I was hired on at the Carrie-Succandy Tribal Council in February of 2020 and began work from the office in March of 2020. It has been challenging given the times we are in with COVID, causing all kinds of interruptions and delays, changing how we work and move about in our professional and personal lives. Learning the CSTC programs and services, including protocols, policies, and procedures, has been a steep learning curve. However, the staff and tribal chief here at CSTC have been a great help in my navigation of learning of all the processes and programs here at the CSTC. We've gone through some staff changes, including in the finance department, communications department, and GIS positions. We have since backfilled the communications position, hired a new staff member in the CSTC technical services unit, filled the finance position, hired a full-time receptionist at CSFN, and also a full-time CSFN minute taker. The CSTC administrative assistant, and we have had short-term positions in the archive department. Regular programs such as the Aboriginal Fish Strategy Agreement and program managed by Christine, I have a hard time with her name there, Sileski, have been ongoing. The slide on the Fraser River has posed many challenges for the First Nations up and down the Fraser River and for the Department of Fisheries and Oceans. Stocks appear to be low in the main river system of BC, in the main river systems of BC, such as the Fraser and the Skeena River systems. It is unfortunate as fish is a main staple of diet for all First Nations in BC. As an ex-commercial fisherman and having fish as one of my main diets, I am hopeful that this issue can be resolved and the CSTC can take a major role in the rehabilitation of this valuable resource. I remain optimistic that in due time, the control and management of this valuable resource will be turned over to the First Nations before it is too late. The Archives Department managed by Catherine Laura for CSTC is a very progressive department, finding different avenues to continue to archive and digitize documents and recordings that are stored at the CSTC office. Many grants and proposals have been written, submitted, and approved by this department. The successful proposals take care of a lot of the infrastructure for digitization and staffing costs in the Archives Department. Catherine has also been busy reorganizing the hundreds of boxes of materials and has recently purchased a new shelving system to keep her organized and prepared for other big purchases in her department to archive the digitized materials in the collection management system, all of which is paid for by grant funding. So Catherine in her due diligence down there is very proactive, like I was saying, with accessing funding. So she's accessed quite a bit of funding to make all of this happen. The CSTC Technical Services managed by Lucy Martin has been very busy with the offices downstairs, including the reorganization of files and documents. This process has definitely been time consuming, along with her other duties of technical services that CSTC provides as a service to the many communities. Radloff and Associates have been with CSTC for many years and continue to work with Lucy on the infrastructure issues in each community. CSTC Communications Department managed by Audrey McKinnon has been a very proactive department, managing communications on our social media sites and preparing and writing materials for the CSTC Tribal Chief. Audrey has been very proactive, opening lines of communications with membership via social media sites to keep members informed of the CSTC and the communities. Should any communities require the CSTC's assistance in the communications, please call the CST office or email Audrey. The $175 million Pathways Forward to implementation is ongoing. MNP and the CSTC technical teams and coordinators have been very busy diligently working through the deliverables of the PFA2. CSTC is set up to flow funds through the economic development funding received from the province. Some funding to date has been distributed, including the socio-cultural, governance, active benefits, and capacity funds. For economic development, please submit your applications for review and approval. And that's going out to the communities and their ACDEV offices. The CSTC Assistant, Victoria Austin, and CSFN Administrative Assistant, Mariel Sam have been very active assisting the CSTC and CSFNs. The CSTC EA and CSFN Assistant have been very helpful organizing this event and other tasks that have been directed to them. Taking minutes via verbatim or digging up old minutes and or resolutions can be exhausting on their time, and we are very thankful for their assistance on organizing this event and the skills that they bring to this table. The CSTC front desk, Alberta Alec, has been tasked with taking care of a lot of the COVID programs to date. The CSTC COVID-19 service has been ongoing since May 2020. And so far, the CSTC has been approved for funding in and around the $300,000 mark. These funds assist the CSTC members and other First Nations in the Prince George area whom are homeless or near homeless. CSTC assists with shelter and grocery gift cards and also PPE, personal protective equipment. To date, one of our biggest challenges in receiving funding has been getting full support from our directors in ISK funding. I understand with the COVID situation, it makes it very difficult for our directors to get all of their emails. However, if CSTC is minus one director signature for our ISK funding, ISK will not release the CSTC funding. To date, we still have not received last fiscal's funding due to a lack of signatures. So we're just hoping that we can get that signed off very shortly. To date, since April 1st, CSTC has applied for funding and proposals to many different entities, including ISK and other nonprofit organizations, totaling over $708,000, of which CSTC has been approved for approximately $450,000. And we have an additional $160,000 that's pending approval, which we should hear from within the next couple of weeks. If anyone has any questions, you can also refer to the reports on the virtual AGA booklet that's on the site here. Just to let everyone know, we've got an awesome team here with the staff at CSTC. And I look forward to working with the staff to implementing their work plans and their budgets for the upcoming fiscal year. It's been a very difficult year as you know, with the COVID and that kind of thing coming around, and it's hard to get the one-on-ones with the communities and things like that. But here at the CSTC, I mean, we have a great team that's in place here. They work very hard for the communities, and they understand that there's 7 communities out there, and that we're servants to those memberships of the CSTC and the members of those communities. So I just want to thank all of the staff here and the leadership, including Tribal Chief Mina and the directors, for their direction to us here at the office. And again, my kudos to the staff here. They're a great staff, and I enjoy working with everyone here. And that's my report for now. Thank you, everyone. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call me, text me, or communicate to me any which way you can, and we'll see what we can do to get back to you with any answers that you require.
All right, then. Do we have any questions for our general manager? And you can raise your hands or type them into the chat box. We'll just give it a minute or two. We're just all looking through our, making sure we're not missing anybody here. Okay. Just checking one. I've got a hand up, but that's a technical issue. Any other comments, questions for John? Oh, I've got 2 hands up. So I'm going to go. I'm going to go with Charlotte Monica Charlie. I'm just going to allow you to talk. You'd had your hand up. There we go. And if you want to unmute to ask your question. Are you there, Charlotte? I think that's one of the problems we've been having. She's maybe having some technical issues here. To try it again. She's saying, sorry, can't hear you. Can you hear us now or? Hi, Charlotte. Did you have a question?
What are you gonna do for our bands in the next future, and what are plans for now?
I'm sorry, Charlotte. We can't hear your question. It sounds like it's an internet issue. Are you able to type your question in? I heard, what are you going to do for the bands, I think.
Like for mental health and wellness.
Thank you, Charlotte. Awesome. Okay, what's happening for the bands? Thank you. Okay, I think we heard Charlotte. I'm just going to turn that over to John. Thank you so much. And I'll just ask you, John, anything that's going on with mental health.
With Carrie-Sicani, it's not really part of our department here. That is more handled by the Carrie-Sicani Family Services, I believe, is where the health and wellness opportunities for members. I think that's where that's vetted through. But we don't have any programs here, from my understanding, that can deal with that. We can direct people to where they can access opportunities for health and wellness, but we don't have any resources or programs here other than a little bit of COVID funding to help with a lot of the physical stuff, like places to stay and gift cards and things like that. That's about what we have here.
Okay. Thank you, John. I'm just going to go to, I know we have one in the question and answer as well. I'm just going to go with my hands here. So Mark Louie, I'm just going to allow you to talk and ask you to unmute. If you'd like to, Mark Louie, you can just unmute to ask your question. Or type it in the chat box if you're struggling at all to ask questions. That's easier for us.
Hello.
Thank you. Hi there, Mark.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Great, thanks. What's your question?
Yeah, I just wanted to give you guys a really big thumbs up from where I am here in Surrey. My heart still belongs in my home country, from where all my people are from. However, throughout this whole process of the COVID pandemic and how much it's affected all our people in the grassroots area, I want to give my hands up to all of you guys at the Carrie-Sicani Tribal Council for everything that you've done to all of my people in the home nation. And so my question is, I just want you guys to excel even better and make yourself even stronger and stand even taller, especially in today's environment. So thank you all for everything that you've done.
Thank you, Mark. Greatly appreciate your words of encouragement. And that's one of our goals here, is to grow and expand the programs and services so that we can better serve the membership of the Carrie-Sicani peoples and the communities that we serve. So thank you very much for your kind words and your words of wisdom to help us move and expand and do the best that we can in the jobs that we do here. You're on mute, Zandra.
Sorry, guys, trying to get my background noise because I hear a little bit of when we have too many open, I can hear a little background noise. So my apologies if it's me. If you want, I've got it open, Mina. I'll just ask it. There was a question in the chat box. I want to know if CSTC gets approval from the chiefs for any expenditures of any kind.
Most of the majority of all of the administrative stuff that comes through me as the general manager. So a lot of the programs and services that we deliver gets signed off by me as the general manager. Anything in fisheries, anything to do with travel, basically all gets signed off by the general manager. The directors, basically, they approve the budgets and work plans and things like that.
Excellent. Thank you, John. Are there any other questions for John at this time? And as well, everybody knows you have contact information. If there's any time that during the year that comes up that you have questions, or after this, if something comes up for you, you can contact the staff to put any other questions forward that you may have. All right, I don't see any other hands up or comments. Thank you so much for all your hard work, John. I know that your team is behind the scenes. Oh, sorry. Oh, somebody said they'd sent a question to the email. So if I can get one of my technicians to perhaps check the email, and we'll get back to you shortly. But I know, John, just as a behind, and maybe Mina can offer, but just seeing some of the support of being kind of on your team for the last 2 weeks, the support and the fun and the energy that you put into your work is wonderful. And hey, man, who doesn't want a GM that raps? Come on, people. That's what's the beauty about this organization. Mina, if you want to say a few words.
On his rapping skills?
Either way, I don't want to judge. It's all love. It's all love.
Oh, wow, I enjoyed that first public attempt. It was encouraging and inspiring and all of that. Yeah, just to echo what GM John has shared is, he's been new to the role since March of last year.
Yeah, March
he came in right when the COVID hit, so it was a very challenging times for us, but we pulled together as a team, kept lines of communication open, and that was really key to us being able to work efficiently or as best as we could through this kind of strangeness of those first 4 months. And like I said, he's doing very well, and still it takes time to really get into the full swing of this kind of work of running this kind of a large organization, and with a board, etc. So good on you, John.
Thank you, Tribal Chief. I did see a question here from that's popped up here. It says, I am wondering if the CSTC has the power to make changes for off-reserve members to have access to holistic services that the CSFS offers. We don't have, we can steer and direct people to those different avenues to where they can have access, but really at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the program managers at CSFS and the other entities. That's where the decisions are made. We can write letters of support and things like that, but at the end of the day, it's going to come down to those managers who assess the situation at hand.
Yeah, I think, John, that could be an exploratory discussion that we could have as an administration, to see, because I don't want to say no right away, but no, I think we can have the conversation. I think that's where John was going. Let's see what we can do, and if it's going to be to continually pass people over to an organization that is dedicated or mandated to provide those certain services, then that's what we'll have to continue. But as you can see in the upcoming presentation on the G2G and the pathways too, some of those topics are about community control, jurisdiction of a variety of of topics, including health and wellness. So.
And again, I can't wait till these doors are open so that the membership can see for themselves, and the leadership can see what a great staff we have here that work hard for the membership here at CSTC.
Did you want to respond to that next one in the chat box, which is just wondering if there's another Healing the Healers. Does anybody know? Is that a community-based initiative or?
Another Healing the Healers.
I think Cares County Family Services has done this. I think Nasal Bay, Hanae may have brought the program in. I think so. I've heard that some individual communities have brought the program in. So one of the programs that I've had myself and another staff member looking into is the AFOIT, or IFOT, Indigenous Focus Occupational Therapy Program. It's another kind of interesting program like the Healing the Healers, etc. So Beverly Best says, how can members be more involved to help support you better? Specifically, if there is something you at CSTC would like to see from members in general? I think that's a great question. Maybe this is, it's really challenging not having our doors open right now, but there are other ways to really engage with membership, and it could be this through online webinars or meetings like this, as well as, there's John Lewis, that's general manager at cstc.bc.ca. I think those questions could go to him, and I believe he can find some opportunities to open the doors, so to speak, until we can physically open the doors.
And also the Moccasin Telegraph goes a long way too. If the members see an opportunity to talk to other members about the programs and services that we deliver here, that works perfectly as well. Just talking with friends, family of the CSTC members, talking about our programs and services and how we can be of assistance. That really helps promote the organization as well.
Mm-hmm. So also, Dennis Patrick, wanted to that we should acknowledge all of the organizations that provide dedicated services to children and family. As I mentioned, there is a Cares County Family Services and the Nasal Bay Hanae. Both of those, I think, cover off all. Slasden and Necausley are the only two that are part of Nasal Bay. The remainder of the communities are part of the Cares County Family Services, and the Cares County Family Services has its own board that it answers to. And maybe one of those questions that we were asked, John, could actually go to Cares County Family Services board. Just looking in the chat box, I'm just jumping in here. I don't know if I'm taking over, John. Sorry. Carrie Ann Lewis is, that would be great if we could get support to keep healthy and fit for off-reserve members. As listening to Chief Clarence Louis earlier, just being really inspired that there are others out there as well who are dedicated to fitness and well-being, staying active. I don't see why we couldn't. John is a proficient proposal writer, grant writer, and if there's money out there, he can go and get it and find it. And he's very talented at doing that. So I don't see why that we wouldn't be able to make an attempt to see if we can support members through COVID to be active with maybe Fitbits or stuff like that. I don't want to make any promises. I'm just thinking on the spot here. Also, AFOT, CSTC offer this to members. We've been looking at bringing this in through as an initiative because we've heard numerous times and looking back over the CSTC record how health and wellness has been important, even though we're not mandated, this organization is not mandated to provide those services. I don't see why we can't do some special projects along the way. Like, we have someone who can go and help find the money to do that. And that would be offered to the CSTC members. Also, Sherry Tibbetts, it can be a collaborative project between nations and Healing the Healers. Absolutely, we'd seek partners out. Robert Charlie, where can we find the funding allocations for the PFA agreement for each band? Rob Charlie. We have those available, Rob. We can make that available to you. I believe it's in the PowerPoint presentation. I haven't looked at the recent PowerPoint presentation on Pathways, but that information is available to any of the membership who are signatories to the Pathways 2.0 agreement. I'm done.
All right, I've got another hand up here. And then folks, just so you know, not to, if you have any other, this is going to be our last one, just because we do have a guest speaker that's going to be coming online with us later on. So I'm going to ask this, have this last person to speak. Sir Bruce Allen, I know you were out there, my friend. I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself, ask your question, and then out of respect to our future speakers, we are going to move on with the agenda. Are you there, Bruce?
Hello.
Hey, Bruce.
Hi, Bruce.
Hi, Bruce.
Yes. I just on the comments about Healing the Healers. I was one of the original coordinators of the Healing the Healers at Carrier-Sacani, and we worked with residential school survivors. And it was a really good project. And I think we just scratched the surface, and I think we still have a lot of work to do. And it should be all inclusive. It shouldn't be just any one organization. And then following the Healing the Healers, I went on to work with the Indian Residential School Survivor Society, and where we supported survivors in their testimonies to the government for compensation. And currently, we're working with day school applications. Next year, probably day scholar applications. But I think that throughout our communities, we have been working with 60 scoop survivors and say missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, families who were left behind, and all that. But yeah, I think we need to work together. Indian Residential Schools is looking for probably another individual to work up here in the north, besides myself, and they're funded through the First Nations Health Authority, and I think Carrier-Sacani has an individual working there as well. But more people working together, I think, would really benefit our people.
Yeah, there's definitely strength in numbers, Bruce, and the more communities we have working together and pulling towards one goal, the stronger we are, and the easier it is for us to access funding to address a lot of those issues that have come as a result of those the residential schools, 60 Scoop and Indian Day schools. Right now, a lot of the economic development projects are moving ahead, but we certainly are lacking in the social development part, where we could have more infrastructure set up for addressing those type of issues that come out of the residential schools and things like that. And it's my hope that we can help assist in any shape, way, or form to bring those social programs together, because when someone is ready to go to get help, we need that infrastructure in place to make sure that they can get that help right away, as opposed to waiting a few weeks or whatever the time limit is on some of this stuff.
Yep. If anybody needs to get a hold of me, Alberta has my contact number there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
Sherry Tibbett asked to be included in that discussion. So maybe Sherry, you can reach out to Bruce as well to say that you'd like to be involved in that. Mm-hmm. And we're at the end. We've got another comment, but I'd really like the staff to get back to the person in the comment box. I know that there's another one in there. I don't know if we want to speak to that now, or if somebody would like to, if you can just take a peek. What do you think, Nina?
I think we'll speak to it. We'll respond directly, because that's much longer conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll be following up with the member that's answer hasn't been answered yet. So thank you so much, folks. We are moving on to our next item. Thank you, John, everybody, for his rap skills and all the things that he's done for us. You rock, sir. We are taking this on the road, and I will be your MC to sing you out onto the stage, okay? So know it.
Good.
Great job, everybody.
You got to start at the bottom and work your way up.
Oh, that's right. Exactly. I'll be carrying the suitcases around first. So thank you to you and all of your staff, John, for all the hard work that you do on behalf of the organization. So
Thank you, Xander. Appreciate it.
all right, we are be opening the floor up for another presentation before our break. And so I am going to be inviting Tribal Chief Mina Holmes back to the stage to present on the government to government process.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I thought we were going over to Judith Sayers right now. I was like ready to sit back and listen to her presentation. So, do we have the PowerPoint? Can we get the PowerPoint up? Who else is here from the G to G? Maybe Tanis? Can we promote Tanis to panel, please? Sorry, Tanis. Once you're on here, we might, if you're not comfortable, we can demote you back to participant. So we can just go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so we're talking about the pathways forward here. Initially, we had Brian Toth queued to walk you through this presentation. However, Brian is not available. He's got movers and no internet and all sorts of stuff happening at his home today. So he has no internet to hop on and do this work with us presentation. Jackie Thomas was next to kind of help out, but she had to get onto another meeting. So that leaves myself, and I'm hoping that I can have at least one other person who has been part of the G2G discussions kind of put up on the screen if that's possible. I'm just looking at the list, and I think that's either Beverly John, Chief Bev, or Tanis. Yeah, I'm just double checking the list. Ellen. So if someone from the tech team, someone can reach out to either Chief Bev or to Tanis and ask them if they would be interested in helping me walk through this presentation, that'd be great, or at least get to the point of answering questions, because there can be a lot of questions. And again, like, there's folks who have been part of this since the very first collaboration agreement. One more second. See, I was totally expecting to be listening to Judith Sayers right now.
I just noticed that Tanis has said hello in the chat box. So I don't know if maybe I can even go on here. I don't know if I can even bring Tanis up. Maybe just even have Tanis speak if we can't. Oh, no, I don't see Tanis on the list anymore.
Both Tanis and Bev have been promoted to panelists, so they could both unmute themselves and share their screen.
Okay.
Share their
Yes.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm just on my phone right now.
Okay. Sorry, Audrey, is this the last PowerPoint from Brian Toth that was sent earlier?
Let me see. There was a new one sent?
Yes.
Okay, let me get that one up. Jessica's actually sharing her screen right now, not myself, but
Okay.
I'm going to quickly.
I mean, I can share it if you want, or.
Sure, if you're able to share it, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. All right, here we go. Do you see, do I have to adjust it or anything, anybody? How does it look, Audrey?
It says you need to double click to enter full screen mode. We've got screen sharing, but it's just not coming all the way up. It's just a black screen still.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm gonna look for it at the same time here. So if I get it before yours is working, then we'll switch over.
Would this be a good time to do a video while everybody's getting that?
Let's do that. Thank you, Jess. I appreciate it
call.
so much. Thank you, darling. We've got some staff videos here that we're going to be dropping in for you. Sorry, Jess, my eyes have been going all over. But yes, so we'd like to share a couple of videos with you while we find this. So roll it away. We've got Audrey and we've got Alberta coming up here. Thanks, Jess.
Hello, my name is Audrey McKinnon. I run communications for Carrier-Secani Tribal Council. I started here in late August 2020 with a background in journalism, broadcast, and university fundraising, and I've spent the last few months here opening the lines of communication through social media, news media, and of course helping with our first webinar on the Pathways Forward Agreement 2.0. There's a lot of work that I'm looking forward to next, more of those webinars for one. But I want to tell you about two big things that you will see and hopefully benefit from. First, CSTC will be launching our new logo over the next few weeks. So we're saying goodbye to the goose after a decision made long before my time here. And I want you to know about this change so that you recognize us once we've made the transition. Following that, we'll launch our new website. I'm really excited about this. The website is going to be way more user-friendly. You'll find all of our latest news, information about the Pathways Agreement, contact information for staff and our different departments. In short, it's going to be our one-stop shop for everything you need to know about and from Carrier-Secani Tribal Council. So make sure you're following us on Facebook and on Twitter, because right now those are our landing pages for communications, and it's where we'll be primarily launching the new website and logo to start until we have the website up and running. I love to hear feedback in the meantime, so get in touch with me anytime via Facebook or Twitter, or you can email me directly at communicationsofficer@cstc.bc.ca.
That's such a great vibe.
Totally. Love those tunes. All right. Just getting you guys some sound, because I know there's some sound that goes with this beautiful face as well. You know her and you love her, Alberta Alec.
All right, I have found the slideshow. So let me just get this up. We're getting there. This is all good.
And we'll come back to Alberta again. We'll show her at before we go on break here. So
Yeah, sorry, just let me get this up here.
and
So I just while we're waiting, someone had asked a question about how can we find out what how much each of the communities receive from the G2G. That information was presented in the audit. There was a slide in the audit outlining all of the funds that were received in Pathways during that fiscal year and how much had been distributed to the community. So that information is the audit, and I believe that audit summary is going out to, I'm have to double check. I think we're putting it on our website, or it's being mailed or provided. I'm not 100% sure, but it is available to everyone, all of the members. Okay, second slide, please. So Pathways, there we go. Thank you. Well, welcome back, everybody. To get into speaking mode or facilitating mode again, I'd like to also welcome to the panel Tanis Reynolds, counselor at Stellatan, and Chief Beverly John. She's Chief of Tlazda Nation. And these two have been part of the Pathways 2.0 and the previous agreements leading up to Pathways 2.0 that was executed or signed off by both parties back December 2019. We went into implementation mode in 2020. So just to start off, this is when I look at the goals of the Pathways Agreement. Oh, sorry, pause. We did, oh no, it's in there. Never mind, it's coming up. So part of the goals of the Pathways Agreement is to build towards recognition of Aboriginal title, and to build this recognition of Aboriginal title by agreement without going to court and all of those other alternatives, but to negotiate Aboriginal title. And this is bringing our land and people back to health, as we've heard from our ancestors and our elders that, you know, the land, we take care of the land takes care of us, and the health, the state of the healthiness of the land is reflected in the healthiness of the people. And we rely historically and today on the land for our well-being, for spiritual practices, for good nutrition, and for continuing our roles and responsibilities to take care of the land. The pathways, another goal, is also about building our financial independence. And economic development was a major component of this agreement. Some may call it an economic development agreement. However, it had other components that were very important to many of us, like closing the socioeconomic gap, etc. And another important goal is working with the province on decision making around the land. And this particular one is seen in the Environmental Stewardship Initiative and that ongoing work about, how do we make decisions together about the territory and the land? Everyone has to be involved. And so this process has been a bit of a different process than has been in the past. While these processes are continual, they do not lead to a treaty, and nor do they lead to an extinguishment of our rights, and include commitments to working to achieve our collective goals. This agreement, there are 7 communities that have signed it. We can go to the next slide. 7 communities are signatory to it. And the common goals in there are also identified in the outcomes. So while we want to have certain goals, long-term goals, there are some specific things that have to come out of this agreement, that we agreed to come out of this agreement. That one, the Carrick County First Nations always have a seat at the table. Our concerns are being heard, and we're working towards addressing those key issues. And there are a number of key issues, particularly when it comes to land, resources, forestry, decision-making, etc. And we have a voice in decision-making on our territories, and the communities and the members of the communities have to be part of that conversation. And we're really working towards building our own jurisdiction. And you may see in some of the communities, there's your territorial land use plan, etc. Those are part of these discussions. Next slide. I guess then we'll just wait towards the end to take questions, correct? Okay, great. In here, so we just wanted to clarify, as I did in my earlier introductions, is who are the Carrick County First Nations. So that includes Silkazko, Stellatdan, Nadliwatan, Saikas, Nakazli, Tlazdan, and Takla. These are the communities who decided to push forward in the very first agreement, the collaboration agreement. These communities decided to work together to bring a judicial review to against a proposed pipeline, a proposed project. So because they brought a judicial review, the province turned around and decided that they would rather negotiate with the 7 collective communities as opposed to going to court with them. So that's who they are. Next slide. And this is really, I think we could do the whole presentation just on this slide, is how did we get here? So while the very first agreement of the collaboration agreements came into effect in 2016, there were a number of predecessory events and activities, negotiations that occurred that really gave position, grounding, and voice to the collective First Nations who chose to stand their ground and bring a judicial review. So just in summary, the CSTC Declaration on Statement of Claim in 1982, this 1982 Statement of Claim predates the Canadian Constitution, and that was done intentionally by the leaders of that day. In 1992, the Feds and First Nations organizations established the BC Treaty Commission. That's when all of the treaty work started. The CST signed its first framework agreement with the BC Treaty in 1997. Then in 2007, 10 years later, CSTC withdrew from the treaty process after 10 years of negotiating and a tremendous debt. In 2012, 2013, there's a response to 3 proposed natural gas pipelines, and CSTC begins to negotiate. So if you recall back then, there were a number of proposed pipelines coming through the collective Carrick County territory. And First Nations, the community started working together, talking about how do we deal with this, what's our position in the environmental review process, And there were a lot of discussions and many years of hard work and all of my predecessors who did that wonderful work. And now in 2014, the Natural Resources Protocol Agreement was signed, which is also very closely linked to the Collaboration Agreement. So once the province realized that they weren't going to be able to push the First Nations aside, their pipelines couldn't go through, and then they started negotiating. So they had their first two these agreements that really started the discussion, and they were mostly about how do we work together, how do we talk together. We all have a seat at the table. This is who we are. We're not stepping aside. We're not standing down. And these are the topics that we have to speak about. And those were quite substantial topics in those agreements. What's missing out of the slide is there it is. It's the Environmental, Social, and Cultural Initiatives Agreement. And then after that is the Environmental and Stewardship, or ESI, or Ominika Demonstration Project Agreement, that the communities, members of our member nations, as well as other member nations, signed with the province. And this is one of the major things that came out of that ESI work, or Ominika Demonstration Project work, is the communities and the province working together to build what's called trusted data. And that trusted data had to be the real picture of what the land looks like, the landscape, the activities, climate change among those. So in 2017, Pathways 1 was signed. That initially was intended to be a longer-term agreement, but due to some of the challenges, I believe, and what really inspired me about Clarence Louis earlier was just being blunt and upfront and open about this stuff. You often get put into a position where you feel you have to be careful about what you say and be politically correct in your speaking. So, embracing his inspiration, the first Pathways Agreement was intended to be a much larger, longer agreement. However, as Chief Clarence Louis expressed, challenges and issues at tribal councils are everywhere. It's not unique to Carrick-Suquamish Tribal Council, in fact. And there was some disagreement about some of the getting up to the 12th hour of signing it. So, because there was not full agreement by everyone, the agreement was then signed off as I think it's a 1-year agreement or 2-year agreement. So that gave rise to beginning negotiation as more solidly, collectively, 7 communities arm in arm together to negotiate the next agreement, which is Pathways 2. Now, Pathways 2 took some great work. Yes, that's very true. What's important to know here too is that there were other communities who had their own pathways or similar to Pathways. That is Shuswap Nation. They're down in the Sunshine Coast. They announced their, I think it's called a foundation agreement, the Shuswap Nation Foundation Agreement. They announced their agreement in, I believe it was November 2018. 2018. And 2018 or 2019, Chilcotin National Government as a collective there as well, they signed a Pathways Agreement. And even recently, I think it was about 3 months ago, Lake Babine Nation signed their Foundation Agreement. And if you were to take all of these agreements and put them side by side, they are all quite similar, just a variety of approaches to the priorities that the communities working, negotiating with the province took. Our priority that Carrick-Suquamish, the Collective 7 took, was around economic development. We are in a forestry sector. We are heavy in forestry activities in our territory, and I remember listening to the technical folks talk about the future of forestry and how we have to really plan for not having all of our eggs in this one basket, but we need to plan for a sustainable future that can scope into the next 100 or plus years. So we focused on economic prosperity. And I want to share a quote from former Chief Archie Patrick in a meeting at a tripartite meeting with the province and the federal government. He shared that, now that this agreement is going through, we have to learn now how to manage prosperity instead of because we're so used to managing poverty. And that quote still sticks with me today, because it's true. We do have to relearn how to manage our finances, that we have to, have workshops and some capacity workshops or training on, what is economic prosperity? What does that mean? How do you think like that? And I think Chief Clarence Louie would be a wonderful facilitator of some of those conversations. Next slide, please. How am I doing for time? Am I going to get through all these in time?
We are a little bit, if we can go. We've got, we're at 2:37,
Okay.
Our next keynote, Dr. Judith Sayers, is on at 2:50, so we may just shorten our break a bit. So sorry, everyone, but we want to make sure we get this content to you. Your butts might just get a little bit more sore for a little bit longer, so keep at it.
So agreements since 2014, I actually went through this. So I think we can skip this slide. I've spoken to this in the previous slide of all the agreements, the prior agreements. So next slide, please. Pathways 2, so funding and commitments is the four main areas are traditional governance, language and culture, economic development, environmental stewardship. So these are the main areas of dollars that comes through the package, and there are extravagant formulas for some of these buckets. Most of them, however, are equal distribution among the 7 communities, and some formulas are around harvest or area, and some are population. And I can't get into all of those because I would need to call somebody else to do that whole presentation on all of those formulas. Next slide, please. Some of the aspects of pathways that are important to know is a regional economic development initiative. That bucket is $70 million, and it's actually a combination of, I think it's 40 million and 30 million that came from the province from 2 different buckets that the province had. Governance revitalization, 12.5 million, and these are distributed directly to the communities. So is the regional economic development. We just hold the funds until there's a signal or a decision for all of these funds. We hold the funds here until the chief's table or the CSTC table make a decision on what to do with the funds. Then we flow those funds and cut the checks and send them out to the community. So the governance revitalization, again, is directly to the community for governance work. And each community, the leadership table decided quite a long time ago that they would take care of their own communities. So almost all of these funds are directly to the communities to do what they choose to do with them. And if they choose to, they can work with each other on shared projects, for example. But for the majority, each community decided what it would do with its portion of those funds. The closing the socioeconomic gap, the socioeconomic dollars within this agreement included language and culture. So that's 12.5 million distributed directly to the communities. The wealth fund, 15 million. I think we have 10 million right now. I gotta double check that figure. That's sitting here at the tribal council as well until leadership makes a decision on this. So direct transfers to communities, including forestry revenue, are $63 million. The capacity funding that's in the agreement is $22.4 million. And this is to, majority of it goes directly to the communities, so communities can ensure they have technical representation at the forestry table, reconciliation table, stewardship table, and whatever sub tables that may form. So those dollars are there for the community's use. Some of the funds are kept for collective capacity. So, it takes dollars to organize those meetings, to have administrative assistants, chairs for each table to ensure work progresses, work plans are looked at, and everyone is moving on in a not stalling, but just everything's moving forward. The environmental stewardship decision-making this is currently being decided in the collaboration with the province of BC. And these are, so that's a summary of the financial aspects of the agreement. And again, as I mentioned earlier, while we go to the next slide, the summary of each of those buckets that you saw and how much was distributed to each community is in that report. So if you have questions about that, we can put it in the chat, or one of the technical team can make sure that it's accessible through the chat. It'll be a link that gets popped in there. You click on it, then then it should pop up. That's what I believe anyway. It's easy for me to say that sitting here. It's the folks in the background who have to do the work. Now for community engagement, there was a question earlier, and Ketlo asked in the Q&A box was, it seems like consultation occurred after this agreement was signed. So if you recall, Chief Clarence Louie mentioned, these, you have to sign these confidentiality agreements while you're negotiating, and it's the bane. It's such a pain that we have to do that kind of work, and I'm really relieved to hear that we're not the only ones who are frustrated with that. So during the negotiations from Pathways 1, during the negotiations leading up to Pathways 2, the leadership table decided that it would engage its own membership. And the collective capacity folks, the tables I had mentioned, and all of the folks who work there for those tables, could only do community engagement if they were invited to do so in the communities. And we were able to provide support to majority of the communities, helping that leadership and those councils and their technical folks who sat at these tables in negotiation. We managed to assist and support in most of the communities, not all, but most. Now, we were able to, we have a communication strategy that we came up with the tables to do a series of webinar engagements with members. So we just opened it up to all the members of the communities to come and listen to and work through the agreement itself. Our first one was December 12th. It was actually a lot of fun. We are planning more of these, and because this information should be available to everyone. So so I think community engagement and communication is absolutely key to ensuring everybody is moving along together on this file. So we are working on standardizing a process for engagement on webinars, and we'd really love to see a standard and what a communications protocol on Pathways or negotiations is with the communities, each of the communities and their members. But the goal here is to have at least one webinar a month. We'd hope to. A lot of work goes into these webinars. But in the meantime, communities are free to forward any questions they have to the Tribal Council. I suggest you forward those questions to communicationsofficer@cstc.bc.ca. That is the most sensible route. And please look for upcoming webinars and that we'll be hosting, because I know there are a lot of questions out there and people would like to know. So we want to do what we can to ensure that information is available to you. Next slide. Thank you. I made it. 5 minutes for questions.
We've got, and as well, Tanis, I don't know if you can unmute yourself. Tanis had said that they would like to provide a little bit more information or some points. So Tanis, I'm going to invite you. There we go. Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to say thank you to Mina. I thought that I might have to say something, but I think that you did a very good job of going over that in a brief snapshot, and the communications will be opened. So if anyone has any suggestions on how we can better communicate the information and get people involved, just send your messages to us however you can. And I just want to say that I've been honored to be involved in this in small ways, and I just want everyone to know that so many people are involved in all of this work, and Mina has done a great job of being a leader in that process. I also just want to shout out to Stelatan First Nation for being so involved in this meeting and participating so well. It's great to see everyone getting involved and speaking up. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanis. Tanis is being very humble there. She was a big part of this agreement and the ongoing work that happens at the table. So I just want to say that she's been a big part of that, and really thank you for your leadership, Tanis, as well. Chief Beverly, do you have any comments or anything to add?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Tribal Chief Mina. You did a fantastic job. I'll have to agree with Hannes. There was nothing that was left out that was of significant importance for everyone to know. So you did a good job. And as Tanis has said, you've had some strong leadership at the table. So I really appreciate all your efforts and all your work that got the 7 CSFNs to where it's at now. It was a huge feat to try to keep people organized and working together. So hats off to you for that. I just wanted to make a quick comment that while, the Pathway Forward 2.0 was a rolling agreement from way back from the first collaboration agreement, that through the times that we've been in negotiation and conversations, that we always understood that, that each community is unique and their work will be tailored to their own community's needs. So while there are different buckets, it's boots on the ground is going to be in each community. I strongly encourage for you to talk with your either your chief or your technical rep from your community to learn more about exactly Pathway 2.0. And just keep your eyes open for work and notices of different types of work that will be starting in your community, because now it's where some of the implementation of Pathway is gonna require community members' participation. I also just want to say make a quick note to ESI. So the Environmental Stewardship Initiative, I think, was a fantastic initiative, in that after many years of government kind of dictating the rules, there's enough work that was done, and the ESI team got nominated for the Premier's Award. So that says quite a big thing about the work that they did. But in reality, that work helped all the CSFNs to get a foothold in terms of setting some standards and parameters for forest licensees in territories where they're going to have to take a little better approach to environmental stewardship, which is awesome. I think ESI is one of the best outcomes if in some way we can use it to help safeguard some of the values that we have about our land and with our land. So I just wanted to make that comment, and also to say that, as with everything else, COVID has kind of stalled some of the work, but it's getting picked back up again slowly, and we're regaining some speed, and now some of those efforts are going to get transferred into communities for the work to start there. So hats off to everyone, all the chiefs, tribal chief, all our technical staff. You guys are amazing. and all the work that you've done. And of course, to all of CSTC staff as well, for doing a wonderful job today. And Zandra, lots of energy. So thank you for that. But yeah, just to say, Pathway is probably one of the good agreements of a collective. And so it's only beginning. There's lots of work yet to do. Masito.
Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. Mussy, thank you so much for the hard work. And all of you ladies jumping in, we really appreciate you, all three of you, because we had little ups and downs there in every corner. So thank you so much. And as always, I hold up my hands. I don't want to speak on behalf of your communities, but I think that, like I always say, the glory of one is the glory of all of us. And I thank all of you for the work that you've put through to this, because we know that this is a hard topic and that there's so many different opinions about this. So holding up our hands to you and thanking all of you for this. So just checking in on all my messages here. Awesome. Alrighty. So we are going to, my apologies, folks. We went a little bit, we've just kind of scooched up our agenda. It's got a little bit longer, but we are going to keep on track right now. So we're going to tell you to do that 7th inning stretch. Hopefully you guys are dancing up a storm behind there because we can't see you. So that's good. So why don't you get up, stretch your body, but we are going to keep on moving here. Our next speaker, again, as always, an honor to welcome some of these amazing people. So I am so honored to be able to introduce Dr. Judith Sayers. Dr. Sayers is the president of the New Chalmette Tribal Council, where she has served since 2017 and was recently appointed as chancellor at Vancouver Island University. She also teaches at the Peter Gustafson School of Business, my apologies if I didn't pronounce that right, School of Business and Environmental Studies at the University of Victoria as an adjunct professor. A member of Hupechaset First Nation. Hopefully I didn't butcher that, Dr. Sayers. Dr. Sayers was the chief for 14 years and also acted as the chief negotiator for a community during the BC Treaty process. She is a mother of 2, has an educational background in business and law, and has received an honorary doctorate of laws from Queen's University. Dr. Sayers joins economic development and capacity with environmental conservation measures and has led innovation and award-winning projects. She continuously has established that alternative energies can be developed in line with First Nations, and we are thrilled that she will be sharing wisdom with us as our communities implement the historic Pathways Forward Agreement 2.0. Sorry to say, we got another rock star here, people. So please put your virtual hands together and welcome Dr. Judith Sayers to the stage. Thank you, Dr. Sayers.
Thank you so much, Sandra. Thank you for that enthusiastic introduction. And it's great to see you, Mina. And I imagine all 95 of you sitting together, in one of your community centers and getting together. It's a nice thought, that we could all be sitting and listening to singing and drumming and doing things in a traditional way. I really, really miss that right now. But we're making the most of this technology, this Zoom, and we've actually been doing a lot of business. I probably have more meetings now with more time, with no traveling to do it. So it is an honor and a privilege to speak with you all, to share a little bit of what New Chalmette are doing here on the west coast of Vancouver Island. And it's a balmy 5 degrees here and on the island and no snow. And it's been an exceptionally warm winter. And, climate change is definitely upon us and something that we really need to address as part of our governance structure. We're not going to have much to govern. Just to give you a bit of background, the New Chalmette Tribal Council represents 14 First Nations on the west coast of Vancouver Island. Pachi around Port Renfrew is New Chalmette, but they don't work in our tribal council. We do work with them. And of course, we have the Makah in Washington State. So we're, divided by a boundary. We have 5 nations, the Manus, who have signed a final agreement. And we have one First Nation that has a 10-year grant, and the other 8 were all ARFA agreements. And of course, we get tribal council funding for all 14. We have a political arm, of course, of which myself and Mariah Charlson are president and vice president. We have 2 women, and our executive director is women. Bit of a change, and it's nice. All our directors are all male, so we have a nice balance, and I really enjoy the work that I do. We also provide services and fisheries, education, employment and training, counseling. We have an exciting arm of cultural support that provide all kinds of cultural support for families, for counseling, then work with our homeless and work with the police in a cultural way. And it's a really nice balance to what we do in our other areas. And of course, we do capital and housing, infrastructure, newspaper. We have a delegated agency for children and family. Now, when you talk about governance, that's something that we're trying to work out. So you know that there's new federal laws and relate that we can draft our own laws in children and families. So does our delegated agency, whose of course authority comes from the province, goes off on our own, do we then, as First Nations, delegate our authority to them to carry it out? Does each First Nation do their own? These are things that we're grappling with and trying to figure how that will all work out. And of course, we have agreements with MCFD to provide services to our children who live away from home. And so we have authority over that as well. So it's an interesting time to work on our governance collectively as Nuu-chah-nulth and individually as First Nations. Now, I know part of your agreements work on economic development. At our tribal council level, we don't do any of the economic development. That's done by the individual First Nations. Some of them have come together to provide economic development collectively. And so, you know, there's the Nuu-chah-nulth Seafoods, Hayu Fisheries, Huu-ay-aht First Nation has some partnerships within Tree Farm License 44. So there's a combination of individual and collective economic development. So our role at the Tribal Council is not to do economic development. We don't do consultations on land and resources. Where we do step in, though, of course, is in such things as federal and provincial laws or policies. And we are doing that now as we speak. One of the big things, of course, in Nuu-chah-nulth here on the ocean is that 10 years ago, 5 of our nations won a court case, well, it's more like 11 years, that said that they have a right to the commercial fishery. And the court says, please, fisheries, DFO, and First Nations, work out what that means. And after 6 years, there was no agreement as to what that meant. So these 5 nations went back to court to get a ruling that DFO was infringing on our rights. And 2 years ago, the Court of Appeal heard the appeal, and we have no decision. If you can imagine, the courts, 2 years to make a decision. And meanwhile, in the past 11 years, our fishermen have been sitting on the shore and not able to go out and do their commercial fisheries. They've done some, but not as was imagined by the courts. And fisheries has been a core activity and a resource for our members to create income for their families. So this has been a real struggle for us. We watched the Mi'kmaq this summer doing the same thing, trying to exercise their right to their lobster fishery because DFO wouldn't sit down, even though they also had a court case on their side. So this is a huge impediment for us out here. And many, many times our fishermen just said, we're just gonna go out and do it. And our lawyers say, well, maybe you shouldn't do that. But I think people are at the point now where they just want to go out and assert the rights that the court set out for them, because this really is something that affects us economically. And so we originally started this court case with 14 First Nations. And of course, the federal government loves to play divide and conquer, and got a ruling from the court that if we couldn't resolve our overlaps, we had to step out of the court case. So we ended up with 5 nations in this court case that won the ruling back in 2010 and went back to the Court of Appeal. So we continue to do that. There are things we work on collectively to try and increase economic development in our territories. Clean energy is something I've worked on in a long time, and we have 11 of our Nuu-chah-nulth nations that have operating projects or want operating projects. And of course, right now, the BC government isn't buying any power, doesn't want us to create any more power. They say Site C is going to give them more than enough power. And there were millions of dollars, not just by Nuu-chah-nulth nations, but others, of people who were developing projects and then were stopped in their tracks. So this continues to be a big political push for myself in trying to develop more clean energy, provide opportunities. And, you know, the most recent thing that I'm working on is First Nations utilities. So you could put together a utility that could provide power for your region. And right now, of course, BC Hydro and Fortis do that, and they don't want us interfering with their customer base. So anyway, it continues to be a big push in economic development. You know, government loves to put up barriers for some of the things that we feel we can do in a way that sustains our environment, high environmental standards. And it's really important that we be able to own, manage, use our own resources in our own territory. I wanted to touch a little bit about how do we govern during a pandemic and what has become some of the main issues on how we can govern collectively as the Nuu-chah-nulth. And you know, of course, COVID has impacted our communities immensely. And so we came together in June and came up with 4 things that we wanted from the provincial government. Simple things. One, we wanted to know all of the COVID cases in close communities, because we all go into town, you know, to buy groceries, drugstore, gas, etc. We wanted to know how many cases were in them. And of course, we were told individual information was more important than information coming to the communities. And we said, well, we are nations and we have a nation-to-nation relationship with BC, and therefore we want this information. We need the full disclosure of information so we can govern in our communities. We fought them in the media, we fought them at the table, and we set up a table with BC to negotiate, and we took a case before the Privacy Commissioner to determine and say that we have a right to the information as nations, and we have, it's more important for a group of people who can be more affected. And we lost that application. The Privacy Commissioner basically said that there's no tools in BC law for us to be given this right, and that there was enough information for us publicly. So it was a real blow to us. And the Privacy Commissioner is very clear that the health system in British Columbia has to be changed. And I think all of us recognize this. And so how do we, from our positions, change this? And one of the things I worked with BC and still working with them is how do we use joint decision-making to do this? Just wanted to let you know that we did come to an agreement with BC on sharing information. So we are not allowed to use it publicly, but we can use the information to determine if our citizens should go like into Tofino or into Port Alberni or Nanaimo. And so we can say, well, Port Alberni is a red zone, don't go there because there's too many cases. There's a few conditions on that. We're just in the process of signing that agreement. Not what we wanted, but you know, sometimes negotiations don't give you what you want. So that brings me to this whole right of self-government and self-determination. And it's something that we as First Nations have always said many years ago when I was young. I used to go to the United Nations in the early years before they even started drafting the declaration. So it was like 1983. And one of the things that we said from the beginning with all Indigenous people across the world is that we had to have the right of self-determination put in the declaration. It was basic. Everything fell upon that. And of course, the Universal Declaration does give us the right to self-determination, but they also qualify it in Section 4 by saying, well, it has to be internal. We're not allowed to become full governing states and leave Canada and be on our own. And Section 46 of UNDRIP also says this, that, you can't dismember Canada. But, I always think, many of the countries that have gone off on their own, Vanuatu, South Africa, etc., they didn't need a law to let them do that. I mean, if we eventually want to leave Canada, I'm sure that we'll leave Canada. But in the meantime, I don't know if anybody wants to do that. But in the meantime, we have the right of self-determination. And to me, self-determination is determining how we want to govern ourselves, step by step by step. I mean, if the Indian Act was gone tomorrow, could we govern ourselves? But it's just a matter of deciding what is those steps. And, we're at one end of the spectrum where many of us are still under the Indian Act. And we have First Nations that have their own self-govern agreements. We have First Nations that have final agreements that they're governed by. And it's up to us to decide how quickly we do that and how we do that. And we have to be able to have all our people ready to move on self-determination as we go. And I've seen many First Nations, take one area of jurisdiction, such as education or child welfare, and start developing that and getting the tools they need to determine themselves. And sorry, and that's been how they've operated, is just grabbing one area and having it fully governable by yourself because you've built up the capacity to do so. So many of our communities would be able to, and still do, manage fisheries. And that's how we do it. So this new interesting opportunity that we have that's come up, and it'll be my last comments because I know time is up for me, is that we have the new Declaration of Indigenous Rights Act. I call it DRIPA for BC, and the federal government has now tabled Bill C-15, which is the Universal Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People Act. And both of them adopt the UNDRIP, which allows for the right of self-determination. And I often wonder how well does governments understand what the right of self-determination is? What is there? I mean, for them, is it just the Indian Act? So for us, this is our opportunity to put before the government our governance structure, where we want to go, how we're going to get there, and they should support us. It's a new tool, and will it help us? I think it depends on how well organized we are, how we support one another, and how prepared we are. I mean, if we went to the government and said, okay, we want the right of self-determination, what should we do? That's absolutely wrong. You don't tell them. They don't tell us, we tell them what we want in the way of self-determination. And this is in every area of our lives, from education to children, families, to mental health, physical health, how we manage our lands, how we stop projects in our territory. All of that is encompassed in the right of self-determination, our right to the free, prior, and informed consent before any development in our territories that could destroy our lands and territories and our ability to exercise our rights. And I'm looking forward to, I've been working with our Nuu-chah nations on how we can do that individually and collectively. because it is up to First Nations to be governing themselves, the tribal councils, of political support and providing. It won't be a national government. It will be the individual governments that will do so, and the treaty nations will build on what they have in their treaties. And when they need to amend their treaty, they will do so. And so I'm looking forward to this new era. And I think as we've lived our experiences through the years, and even just through this pandemic and our lack of ability to govern our own health, and climate change, and putting together our plans for forest fires, for climate change. There's so many things that we just have to take control of and do what we need to do without asking for the governmental permission. And that's our right of self-determination. And I know you're working hard at doing that with all your different agreements. And that's great to see, the step-by-step pathways that you've done, and just moving forward and in the way that you see fit. And it's good to get ideas from other governments and other First Nations in different parts of BC, Canada, the world, and see what's going on out there. There's a real recognition. And, I go back to the days when I first got out of law school and went off into the world, and we're trying to get publicity on certain issues. And nobody would listen to us. Our issues weren't important. Today they are. And we have to make them more important. We have to make them election issues. We have to continue to educate people to try and eradicate racism, because that's a big block to our progress. And there's so many things to do and no lack of challenges. And, I applaud all the work that you're doing and where you're going for your people, because this is what it's all about. I was just on a call with the community this morning for 4 hours, and we talked about vaccinations for off-reserve people, and that distinction doesn't belong to us. Our people are our people no matter where they live, and they're the most important thing for us. And so how do we keep moving, educating our children, letting them take over these roles? The world has changed, and we change too, but we have those basic values that are so important to us. Anyway, I probably talked too long, but I just did really appreciate the opportunity to think about what I could talk to you about, what I could share with you, and working together to promote our self-determination, self-government in the various areas, supporting one another is so important. And so I appreciate the opportunity to network with you today and to share some of my thoughts. Clayco, Clayco.
Must-see. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your words. Judith, always wonderful to see you. Love running into you when we used to be able to gather. A couple of selfies of us. I think Terry TG was photobombing us in one of them. But thank you for sharing with us where you're at. I think if you're open or open to the idea, I'd love to have a follow-up with you, and maybe we can do some kind of, I'm totally into webinars now. We can talk, share stories, and have members just join the conversation and kind of listen to what we're all doing, because it's really important to share with each other what the kind of work we're doing, and learning from each other. Like this whole, all of these series of agreements that have been accomplished through the Tribal Council. A lot of props to my predecessors, particularly Deputy Chief Reg Mueller, who was here for about a year and a half. I forget, and then Tribal Chief Terry TG. These agreements really, a lot of the great work was done during their term, and came in towards the end, just had to push it over the line. That was about it. So really just want to honor all of the leaders who have done so much wonderful work for all of our community, particularly you, Judith, and I've always been a huge admirer of yours. And definitely, if you are available for some webinar stuff, I'd love to do that. It could be more conversation about what's happening there and over here. Any questions? Oh, sorry, Chair. I'm not chairing.
Not a problem, my friend. You were doing great. If you want to address there's some questions and answers in the box, and then we'll call on Lisa TG. She's had her hand up, and then we will be taking about a 5-minute break to slide in and get us organized for resolution. So we'll be doing some more draws and playing another staff video. So just so everybody knows what's happening.
Thank you. So I'll start with Ann Catlow. She has 2 questions, but I'll put them into one, Judith. For Judith, early Nakazi run is nearly extinct and is in serious danger. Further, we are at the headwaters and are always the one who make the sacrifice to the salmon, so the salmon can make it to the spawning grounds. Our people go without for so many years, and it is main staple of our diet. Judith, is there an opportunity for an agreement with those nations to gather on the Fraser Run?
Yes, I believe so. So some of our First Nations are the Fraser Run, and a lot of them are on the other side. But some of the things that we're doing to revive the fisheries is doing of course, the restoration, rehabilitation in our territories. We have our northern nations are working on salmon managed forest areas. So we want to create new areas in forest planning that allow for us to restore the salmon habitat, because they've logged to the streams and the salmon are coming back. So we're working on that, and we're also working with West Coast Environmental Law to document our traditional laws of how we manage our resources. In fact, one of our nations, our hereditary chiefs, they had certain streams that were just theirs. And so going back to some of those management practices and remembering what they are is something that we're doing importantly. But I think we do need to get together to talk about how do we preserve, protect, restore all these runs to what they used to be, because it really isn't fair that you're at the end of the line and you're not getting the fish.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's definitely a follow-up, I think, for both you and I to look at how the communities can work together, have some kind of webinar coming up. Another question, Terry Lugie. I think it's our role as Indigenous people to steward resources on our territories. What is your perspective on balancing commercial, fisheries, and stewardship?
Well, I think it's important that, we live with ensuring that there will always be fish for 7 generations to come, that our great-great-great-grandchildren are going to know what salmon are, and that we have to live to high principles, according to Canadian law, which isn't our law, but, we're second only to conservation. And what the AGA case says is that we are second only to conservation, and that includes a commercial fishery. So I think our allocations come first, and we should ensure that we have enough, but also working with the sports and recreational fishery to make the commercial fishery to make sure that there is enough fish left to meet the runs that we need, the spawning. So I think there has to definitely be a balance, and I think we need to drive that agenda, because as we know, fisheries just wants to make sure the commercial fishermen and the sports fishery create the commerce and economics that they need. So we need to play a larger role, and I think we've come a long ways down that road.
Okay, thank you. I know, Zandra, did you want to pause here, or do you want to do a couple more questions, or?
I would say let's keep rolling on, and then we can wrap this up, and then we'll take our break. Thank you.
Okay, next question. Judith, what are your thoughts on BC First Nations to unify as one? Knowing majority of BC First Nations never signed treaty, and BC First Nations will be a game changer of the future regarding our quality of life, economics, etc. So it's about the unifying First Nations, and I think you probably have a number of experience that, particularly around the BCFN, et cetera, and other work that you've been doing.
I think that we do need to unify politically and set the agenda of what needs to be done. And I think, we could lead in various areas. Those that are involved in clean energy could lead that. Those that are involved in fisheries could lead that. But I think the more collective, unified voice we have, the better off we are with working with British Columbia and Canada. And now, with the DRIPA legislation in BC and UNDRIP federally, we're the ones that are going to say what the priority work needs to be done, and all of us would have different legislations. And so how do we come together to find out where do we put our energy first? What are those priorities? And so we should determine that agenda together collectively and not work against one another. And I think we can become a lot stronger that way.
Yeah. Thank you.
Excellent.
That's it.
I think we've hit all of our, and I noticed our hand came down. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Dr. Sayers, for doing all the work that you do. You've really been a groundbreaker in our nations, and we thank you for that. And it's not for you to have, undue, to feel humble or anything. It's just really, you have helped. The work you're doing has helped guide so many of our leaders in their forward path for our community. So for all of our children, our grandchildren, our 7 generations, we just want to hold our hands up to you and say thank you so much for all of the contributions that you've made, you continue to make, and you will make in the future.
Clayco, thank you for that. Nice to see you all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sayers. Have a great day.
You too.
All right. Oh my gosh, we are just, we have been so blessed, people. I'm hoping everyone's been enjoying, and their brains are just about bursting right now with all the info that we've been learning. So thank you so much. So looking at the time, I'm going to say, why don't we take it to get ourselves organized? We've got 3:23. We're going to go till 3:30, but in that 7 minutes, we're going to do some door prizes, and then we're going to do a staff draw. So what I would say is, don't close your internet off right now, or close your Zoom box off. So I will bring and invite back Alberta and Audrey, if you want to come back and do some door prizes. So everybody, we're on official break until 3:30. There those babylicious women are.
I don't get described as babylicious enough in my life, Zandra. All right. We have so many door prizes to give away, Alberta. So we're going to spin super fast, right?
Yes.
Okie dokie.
Just announce what the prize is and I'll spin.
Okay. I'm just going to move this onto a screen where I can see that and the spinner at the same time. The next thing we are giving away is the Nechako White Sturgeon Recovery Initiative t-shirt, valued at $20. The winner can select their color and size. Let's spin that wheel. Rosari Prince. Okay, let me just check if Rosari's here, and I'm going to do my best not to mispronounce names, but feel free to correct me. I don't see Rosari in the list here, so let's spin again. Barbara Allen. Let's see. Barbara's not in either. Let's try again. So we explained this earlier, but if you're not in the AGA while we're spinning, unfortunately, we have to move on, just limitations of the format that we're in. So Marie Casimel, I don't see Marie in here either.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
She has it.
Okay.
Tracy Alexander. And to answer your question, Danielle, yes, if you are in this meeting right now, if you've registered, and you have to register to be in here, you are added to here. Tracy's not in here either. So let's spin again. We even sped up the music, didn't we? Cheryl LaRoque. Come on, Cheryl. Oh. Let's try again.
Oh my goodness. Come on, everybody. Nobody wants these prizes.
Who do we have? William Mole. Will Mole. We know Will Mole.
Yep.
Will is here. Okay, Will, you have won one of the Nechako White Sturgeon Recovery Initiative t-shirts. So I'm putting your name by that, and we will collect your information. Actually, I have your information, so that one we don't have to worry about. But congratulations on your prize. Let's throw another t-shirt into the crowd. Spin that wheel, Alberta. Bonnie Wisla. Oh, let me just make sure you're here. If you are here and I'm looking for you, feel free to raise your hand as well. I don't see Bonnie, so let's spin again. Okay, Darren Fulton. Yeah, Darren's here. Darren, congratulations. You've won yourself a Nechako White Sturgeon Recovery Initiative t-shirt. Let me just make sure I get your name, Darren Fulton. I'm recording your name here. And I'm going to be reaching out for your contact information when things kind of quiet down behind the scenes. All right, Alberta, we're giving away another t-shirt, and the prize after that is a vinyl record signed by the Snotty Nose Res Kids. So. Don George, I feel like I've got a good feeling about, oh no, I had a good feeling, but it meant nothing. Let's try again. Let's give away some prizes. Who do we have? Shannon, I know Shannon is in here. Yes, Shannon, you're here. You're raising your hand. I love it. If you have a chance to send me a message in the comments there with your email address, or I'll message you individually to make sure that I can have that. But actually, I probably have your information too. I'd be shocked if I didn't. All right, congratulations on your win. You won a Nechako White Sturgeon Recovery Initiative t-shirt. We'll get in touch about size and color following this event. The next thing we're giving away is a Trapline vinyl record signed by the Snotty Nose Res Kids. We all got to witness their talk earlier, and that was just incredible to hear that spoken word. The winner of this prize, if she's here, let's see, Vanessa Louie, are you here? Vanessa Louie is here. Congratulations. I hope you have something to spin that on. I'm super jealous. Maybe you want to invite me over for a listening, because I really wish I could have won that prize. We don't get to win any of these prizes, staff. So, all right. The next prize we're giving away, we're going through these nice and fast. We're doing a good job. A gift card for Petrocan from Fisheries Department. This is a $50 gift card. Ellen Lorenz, I know you're here, Ellen. I have seen you. Excellent. And I know I have your email address as well. So congratulations. You've just won yourself a $50 gift card for Petrocan from our Fisheries Department. All right. What's the next one? Are we going too fast? Is this good?
This is
All right.
good.
Okay. I feel kind of like, what are they called when they announce the, an auctioneer? That's what I feel like.
Very good.
Yeah. All right. The next one we're giving away. Oh, we've upped the ante. It's a $100 gift card for ESSO from the Fisheries Department.
Nice.
Wheel. Teddy Antoine, are you here? I don't see a Teddy Antoine in the crowd. So we'll have to spin again for that one. Sorry, Teddy, if you didn't make it today. Melissa Lewis. Melissa Lewis, you're here, which is great. I'm going to get your contact information when we get a chance, when things kind of calm down behind the scenes here. You've just won a $100 gift card for ESSO from our Fisheries Department. Yay, thank you so much for coming. Let's do another gift card. This is $100 for Tim Hortons from, this is a donation from 1618 Inn. It's a lot of coffees, a lot of Tim Hortons coffees. Charlene Schmidt, put some extra consonants in there when I tried to pronounce that. Charlene, are you here? Oh, Charlene's not here. Let's spin again for this one. It goes to Marilyn Vickers. I have a good feeling about Marilyn. No, Marilyn's not here. Marilyn registered but isn't here. So let's try spin again for this $100 gift card from 1618 Inn for Tim Hortons. Kirk Newski, you've already won. Kirk shouldn't be on our list anymore.
Oh.
It's a lucky day for Kirk, but unfortunately, we're only giving one prize per registrant. So I don't want to say sorry, Kirk, because you already won something. So congratulations, but we're going to spin again for somebody else. Spread the wealth. Brian Favel. Brian Favel is here. I thought I recognized your name because you've put your hand up before, I think. So yes, Brian, I'm going to reach out to you in a bit for your contact information. You have just won yourself a lot of Tim Hortons coffee, $100 worth, maybe a few donut holes. That should last you a couple weeks, something like that, depending on how much coffee you drink. Should we keep giving away more?
How many prizes left, ladies?
Let's see. We're on such a roll right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 prizes left to give away.
I would
including the
say,
two big ones.
Sorry?
Is that including the two major ones?
It includes the two gigantic prizes. Yeah.
my thoughts are that we should save those for our closing for the Big Daddy prizes, right?
I love it. Let's do it.
Sounds good.
So that we can get ourselves back on track here. Actually, Jess is going to drop 2 quick videos for us just to watch our last 2 staff videos, and then we are going to roll into resolution. So, yo, DJ, spin that wheel. Beautiful. We're just waiting for that last one. Was that our last one? We're just bringing up another one here, I thought.
Yeah, we've got one more coming up.
Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Kat Laurel, and I'm the archivist and librarian for the Carrier County Tribal Council and Carrier County First Nations. I'm going to give you a brief peek at the Library and Archives Department, where I've been wearing masks before they were cool. Although, this is where I've been working for much of 2020. Me and my team manage the library and archival collections of the CSTC and CSFNs, as well as donated and transferred collections important to our mandate. We have over 700 banker boxes of textual information, a library collection of over 2,500 items, 2,000 audiovisual items, and 5,000 photographs and counting. We provide access to these collections, but also offer outreach services related to museum, library, and archival work, and can provide consultation and workshops on request. We also have a robust digitization lab where we can scan textual documents and make them text searchable, scan pictures including negatives and slides, and digitize audio and video in numerous formats so the wisdom of the elders is preserved. Other staff include digitization technician Nolan Allen and the archives and records assistant Jason Martin, who will be covering for my mat leave starting in March. Needless to say, we have a ton of fascinating and key resources in our space that any CSTC and CSFN member is encouraged to access. But I'll leave you with this digitized video from the 1986 All Clans Gathering. Merci.
Wow, fantastic. Has anybody got goosebumps after that? How about you, Mina? I'm feeling it.
Mm-hmm.